We want to welcome once again everybody who has joined us for the third hour. For the existing clients, we're glad to have you, and for a lot of new people out there trying to familiarize yourself with MusicMaster, we're very happy to have you along. You may have seen a press release. We are out there and actively looking for existing positions that may be available. If anybody on the call has an existing position available for a music director, program director, basically a music scheduling user, which you'd like to pass along, please email me, Mark, M-A-R-K, at mmwin.com, and we will certainly pass it along on these webinars to the audience to make sure that we can maybe get some of our cohorts and peers working again as quickly as possible. So I've got 1 o'clock. I see that we've added in quite a few more people who are coming in for the final and third hour. And without further ado, I think I will pass on to the baton on to Joe Knapp to talk about advanced clock functions.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Paul covered clocks very well. Thank you, Paul. And he pretty much did everything that I was going to do, so I really don't need to be here. Actually, I do. I think I will be here. What we're going to do today is go into even deeper into the clocks, take a closer look at clocks, and specifically some of the features that Paul showed you, but some of the options that we kind of glossed over. We're going to dive into those in a little deeper way. We're going to start out here by going into the clocks and taking a look at how the special sets work. And while we're in here, I'm going to show you some other things that may be handy to know. You have a divider bar here in the middle of the screen where you can make the pie smaller if you like. So if you need more room on the left side, you can make it smaller. There's also a special kind of gripper bar here that has 2 arrows. If you double click that, or just click that once actually, that will hide the pie view, and if you click it again, it'll open it back up. So we're going to leave the pie view open, and we're going to kind of make it a little smaller, and we're going to dive into the special sets. There's actually many different kinds of special sets, and there are some considerations that you can make when building these special sets that we're going to dive into today. The basic special set is, let's say, an artist twofer. So whatever artist plays in from this P1 power, we want a second song by that same artist, and that's what basically Paul was showing you, and you put in a list of categories that you want to choose from. That's a pretty simple one. Look at the previous song, but there are all these other options. Next song, music only. We're going to get into that. Some of these other checkboxes here. Let's first think about if you're going to do a twofer by an artist. Suppose that the song that is starting this set, the power, suppose an artist is in that category that only has one song in the library. If you were to schedule that artist as a power, there is no chance that a song can be found to give you the twofer that you were looking for. So how do you deal with that? Well, there's a couple ways of dealing with that. First of all, you could put a code on your songs that are twoferable. In other words, they have enough artists, the artist has enough material to qualify for a special set. And in this position, just ahead of your special set, in this case the power, we could put a filter on, and we could choose that code and then say, we need a song that is by an artist that has enough material in the library to qualify for a twofer set. That's one way of dealing with it. In MusicMaster, we have another way of dealing with it that's actually used pretty commonly, and that's called the Kickoff category. The Kickoff category is a dummy category that basically rotates the artists that are used in your artist sets. Now, an artist set might be a twofer. That's an old term going back, I think to the 60s. But it can also be 3 songs by an artist, or 4 songs, or a mini concert that's 5 or 6 songs by the same artist. But the thing that kicks that off can be a category, like in this case, or it can be a kickoff category. So let's say we're going to use a kickoff category to do this. How do we do that? And we're going to go in here to the library and basically take a look at our music library for this. We're going to take out the jingles and twofers. We have one already called Two for Kickoff. We're going to take that out. Here's all of our songs in the library, and we'll sort by artist, and we can see that we have some artists that only have one song. Some artists have more than one song. Some artists have a lot of songs. And in this database, we've got a lot of John Cougar. So how could we quickly build a kickoff category that would leave out Irene Cara, who only has one song, leave out Jody Watley, but would include Jay Giles Band? And better yet, how can we build a kickoff category that knows that we have a lot of John Cougar Mellencamp, but we have just enough Jay Giles to do a twofer, and take that into account? Well, in MusicMaster, you go to Library, let's see, Keywords, and since we're doing this off of Artist Keywords, this is where you'd want to go, to your Artist Keywords. And in this screen, this is where basically the screen where you can see all the artist keywords that you've used in your library. And this is where you'd also set up the separation and hour rotation special rules for individual artists. In here, there's a menu that's called Tools. You pull that down by clicking on it, and that's the second menu option here from the right. You go down to Kickoff Category Wizard, which is a fourth element or fourth choice on the list, and that gives you the Kickoff Wizard. This is going to build the kickoff category for you. So we're going to click OK here, and the first thing that it asks you is the minimum usage count in the categories that you want to search. So we're only going to search the music categories that we're going to use to fill our twofer position. And in this database, this is an 80s database, we're going to use all the music categories. I could have done this also by just selecting music categories from the pull-down box here at the top. So we say we're going to just use our music categories. And in order to qualify to be an artist twofer, there has to be a minimum usage count of 2. And that means that we're not going to include any artists like Irene Cara that only have one song in the library, but we will include artists like Jay Giles that have 2 songs. We're also going to choose one of these options. Create multiple kickoff category entries when the usage is 2 times the minimum usage count or greater. Or we create one single kickoff category entry for each keyword that has the minimum usage count. If we were to select this one, we would get 1 kickoff for Jay Giles and 1 kickoff in our category for John Cougar Mellencamp. But if we choose the first option, which is the default, then we're going to get 1 entry for Jay Giles, but we're going to get several entries for John Cougar because John Cougar has more material and we want John Cougar twofers to happen more often. So we'll leave that at the default. The next choice here, count all used keywords independently, count only primary first keywords, count keywords in groups as used on songs. This is pretty important when it comes to how you want these special sets to get populated. And this is something that you have to take a little bit of time to think about how you want the radio station programmed and how you want these sets to work. But basically, the basic default, the fundamental one, is count all used keywords independently. The wizard is going to put keywords, in this case, for the first artist. It's going to have Jay Giles as a keyword. It's going to have John Cougar Mellencamp on one of the kickoffs as a keyword. So the kickoff category is only going to have 1 keyword on it. But if we're going to get into this later, and we'll come back and look at this, but there are situations where you might kick off with an artist that has 3 or 4 keywords. For example, Traveling Wilburys. That may have 4 or 5 keywords on it, depending on who was on that song. This is where these come into play. If you kick off with Traveling Wilburys, do you want the entire set to be Traveling Wilburys, or do you want the set to contain members of Traveling Wilburys doing solo material? And so we'll come back to this as we get through this and we see how this works. and we'll look at this again. But for now, we're going to use count all used keywords independently, the default. Now it says the next screen, when we click Next, is where do you want the kickoff category created? Now in this database, I had already created a category called To for Kickoff, but I could have also clicked on Create New Category. So if I had forgotten to create this and I was running the wizard can create a new category for me. But in this case, I'm just going to select To for Category. And then there's a checkbox here that's very important, Shuffle and Optimize Kickoff Category. Once MusicMaster builds the kickoff category, these are going to contain dummy songs by each of the artists that are twoferable, and they're going to basically be unsorted. So they're going to be sorted by artist. And what we want to do is optimize and shuffle those so that we get a nice mix and spread of the artists in this category. So this by default is on, and it should most often, just be left on. So now we click Finish, and there were already some kickoff songs in this database, and what happens then is you get a little warning. It says the target category, the one that we're going to put these kickoff songs into, already has some songs in it. What should we do? Well, we don't want to add the new songs to the category because what we're doing is replacing what was there before. We want to delete the existing songs, the second option, and then add the new kickoff songs. If we're not sure, we have the option to cancel the whole thing and go and take a look at what was in there. But in this case, I know I want to replace everything that was in there. Delete songs, yes. And it says it deleted 21 and it created 35. Now, what did it create? Let's continue. And we'll close this and we'll take a look at our kickoff category. Just opening up the kickoff category alone, you see that we have now some dummy songs. They have nothing in the artist field, gender field, runtime. It doesn't matter because these are not really, this is not music. They have a length of 0. And basically what they are placeholders for each artist. And the only artists that are in this list are the artists that have enough material to qualify for a special set, a twofer, or yeah, in this case, a twofer. Now, you'll see that they don't look like they've been optimized and shuffled, and the reason they don't look that way is because we're just looking at them in the order they were added to the database. If we open the info bar and we go over here and right-click, this is how a quick way to get to schedule properties. Oh, that's not what we want yet. We want schedule order. Here we can see, if we pull down the twofer category, that these songs have actually been shuffled and optimized so that there's a nice spread. John Mellencamp is in here several times, but evenly spaced through this category. Now, how is this used? Let's go back to our twofer clock, and instead of starting out with a power, we're going to start out with a fixed position, but we're going to call for the twofer kickoff category. We want the next dummy artist in sequence from this category. So we're going to get the next song, the next artist, and then we're going to get a special set. Now, in order to get 2 of them, we'd have to double this up, just clone it. So now we get, let's say the next one in line to play is John Cougar Mellencamp. So we get Mellencamp followed by 2 Mellencamp songs from our library. And basically this is a much better way to build your special sets because you don't have to worry about filtering out the songs that are one-hit wonders, and you also get a nice proportion of special sets based on the quantity of material each of the artists has in your library. Now, just to review, why does this artist set work in the first place? When we open up the properties and we take a look at this in a little more detail, what it says is that we are looking for a match on the previous song of the artist keyword field. And the artist keyword field on the kickoff was created by the wizard to be an artist that's in our library who has more than one song. And when it's searching for songs to fill this, it's going to be looking for songs that have that same keyword on them. So in the case of John Mellencamp, it's going to be looking for songs that have John Mellencamp keywords. Now, what happens if the first song, or if one of the songs that it finds has a secondary keyword? It's a duet. Let's say that it starts off with Tom Petty, but the second song in the set ends up being a Traveling Wilbury song, because Tom Petty happened to be on that song. He was on there as a keyword. The way this is set up right now, first to any, that kind of a set could be created. It could go Tom Petty, and then a Traveling Wilbury song that has Tom Petty in it, and followed by maybe another Tom Petty song. So we would basically have two songs, but one would be Traveling Wilburys and the other Tom Petty. If that's not what you want, you can control that with this. You can say that the first keyword is what we're searching on, which is from the Kickoff category. But we're only looking at a match to the first keyword on the songs that we're filling in here. And so that means that if Traveling Wilburys happen to have been the first keyword on the Traveling Wilbury songs, and the secondary keywords were Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, whoever was a contributor on that record, that song would not qualify for this set because the first keywords have to match. So that's why there's an option to do first to first. Okay? And we have other options which we will get into as we move along through here. Paul mentioned that you have this category list down here and that you can move these around. What some people do is to move those around so that the two songs from the set are being generally pulled from different categories or different category order. So if I reverse that order, I'm going to tend to get a D or a P for the first song in the set. I'm going to tend to get a G or a P in the second song in the set because I've changed the order, the search order of the categories. So you could use this, for example, if you wanted to start the 2 for Out with a newer song by that artist, or try to, and then finish it with an older song by that artist. Okay? Now let's look at some of the other options that are in here and see what those do. Any to any, in this case, would be used if we wanted to have multiple keywords on the Kickoff. So maybe we're looking for a specific duet, and it has to have these two artists on it. And the special set is all songs by that duet. So in that case, we would have to match all exact. If we didn't do match all exact and we did any to any, we might get a song by one of the artists that was in the duet, followed by a song by the other artist that was in the duet, both of them being solo, and it would not be a special set at all. So, when you build your special set, you have to carefully think about what kind of sets you want to build, what latitude you want to give the scheduler as far as what kind of songs to put together when it's making these sets. Generally, the one at the top, first to any, is the one that most people use, and first to first is used if you want to make sure that the set is pure. So, for example, if you have a Beatles songs and an oldies library, and you say on the Beatles songs, you say the first keyword is Beatles, but then you add in a keyword for all 4 members of the Beatles. If you want to make sure that your special set is just Beatles as a group, you would want to use first to first, so that every song in the set has Beatles as its primary keyword, the first keyword. If you didn't care and you didn't mind if a Paul McCartney solo and a George Harrison solo got into the mix, then you could do first to any, and you would get any of those artists because they all have the search keyword in them. All right? So now we're going to take a look at, let's see. Yeah, let's do this. We're going to look at another way to use special sets. And here we've always been looking at previous song. And this is basically building up something that matches the song before. And let me explain a little bit about how this works. When it's filling in the first song in the set, it looks back to find this two for Kickoff. When it's filling in the second song from the set, it also looks back to find the two for Kickoff. So it's always referencing back to the first element that's ahead of the last special set. So if we've got a special set element here and a special set element here, this one's not going to reference this one, the first one in the set. It's going to always go back to find the Kickoff one. If that was a fixed category like we started with a power, it would have been looking at that one. If you don't want it to do that, there is an option in here, a checkbox that says match other set members. And if you turn this on, and it really makes sense for the second position, but if we turn this on, and let's clone and make a third one. Now that allows this, instead of the special set element referencing back to the twofer at the top, the Kickoff at the top, it references back to the previous song that got scheduled into the special set. This is pretty much used for thematic scheduling, but it can also be used for artist scheduling. But let's say that what we're going to do here, we're going to go into this, and instead of working off of artist keywords, we maybe would work off of, well, this database doesn't have any, but it would work off of the theme keyword. What could happen in this case is that we'll use artist, for example. Let's say that our two for Kickoff is Bob Dylan. The next song that gets scheduled would be Bob Dylan. The next song in the set might be Traveling Wilburys because it has a Bob Dylan keyword on it. The next song, though, in the set would now have to match one of the keywords in here, and if that one had Tom Petty on it, this could be a Tom Petty solo, even though that has no relation whatsoever to the Kickoff category. It basically is what we call a 6 degrees of separation. As it's moving through here, it's picking up something from the previous song and matching on that to give you the next element in the set. And for a thematic set, it might move from, maybe it plays a love song, and then that followed by a love song that also has a theme of rain. So the next song might have a theme of rain, but it doesn't have love. So it can continuously move through and give you something in common with the previous song as it builds the set through the hour. Now what we're going to do is look at using the special sets to look forward rather than backwards. And a typical use for this, one use I've seen, is to match artist introductions to songs to the songs by those artists. So let's say that we're going to do that in this database. We've got some artist introductions that we've recorded, got some artists in the studio. First we're going to go to the categories and add a new category, and that'll be for our artist introductions. Artist intros. And we're going to have filled that. We'll assume that we filled that with introductions by some of the artists that we play. So what we want to do is we want to have, just before this, say this general song here in the hour, we want to put in an artist introduction that matches the artist that's scheduled here. So what we're going to do is insert a position. We use the icon third from the left here that is the insert element position. And here we're going to insert an artist intro. Well, we don't want to insert an artist intro here. Actually, what we want to do is we want to create a special set. We're going to pull that from a special set. And we're going to take the category of artist intro, and we want that to match the song ahead, not the song before, like you would when you're building a twofer. So we're going to say next song, any. And we're going to search on artist keywords, because when we put our artist introductions in there, we're going to put keywords on them that match the artist's keywords that we have on our songs. So basically what we're doing here is we're saying for the artist keyword, we want to match the next song, and we want to pull from, fill this from the artist intros category. So now what's going to happen is when this general is scheduled, let's say it happens to be Tom Petty. Now this is going to search the library to see if we have an artist introduction where it says, "Hi, I'm Tom Petty, and every time I'm in town, I listen to this radio station." So it's going to always try to pull up a match for that. If it can't find one, that position will be left unscheduled. So this is a way of getting this dropped in. Now, one thing that has to be taken into consideration here is that the twofers, you maybe want those to be scheduled before you put all your other music in. So when you schedule a day, run a scheduling session, you want your artist sets to be put in maybe first before anything else, because you want the scheduler to be aware that those artists are going to be used there, so it can give you artist separation around that position. So these should be scheduled early. And if we look at these, they are in special scheduling pass 1. But this one, we want this to be scheduled later. We want the song to be scheduled first, and then we want the special set to come along and be filled in later to match the song. So in this case, we would have to change the special set scheduling pass to 2. Now the number doesn't really mean anything until you go into the schedule properties and have it mean something. So in this case, we have special sets 2, which means pass order 2, are scheduled after all the other categories. But special sets 1, which was our artist set, is scheduled before anything else. Now that won't work the way we have it set in this screen right now, because we need to take the artist twofer category and make sure that that gets scheduled before special sets 1, because we need to put the dummy artist in there so that MusicMaster knows when it fills in the special set what artist to use. So in this case, we've just fixed a little problem where the kickoff has to be first, then the artist gets filled in, and now all the songs get filled in, and now we want that artist intro for our general, and that comes from special sets pass order 2. And then there's also a special sets pass order 3, because you may want to carry this to the next level and have another special set that maybe is scheduled after everything or before everything or somewhere in the middle. It's all up to you. All right. This can be used for many things. It can schedule. You can look forward at a song, and it can, and special sets can look backward. But the cool thing about these is that they can basically match off of any text field or keyword field. So you can look for a match on lots of different fields, which is why you could use it for theme scheduling or songs from the same album side, things like that. It's not limited to artists. A special set for sure can be used for other things. All right. You can, in the middle of your special sets, you can insert other things. Like if you want to insert, for example, a log note, which is going to say this is where we're going to have a talk break. And that talk break's going to last for 30 seconds. It's fine. The special set still knows that it has to find the twofer kickoff in order to fill this set. So you're not really breaking this up. If we clone this talk break and put another one, we can actually talk between the records in the set if we wanted to. They don't have to be segued. In fact, we can even put a jingle in here if we want to. As long as we know that in here, we basically have to, in that case, say we're looking at the previous song music only. And so if we set our setup that way, we can have non-music elements within the set, and they won't interfere with the set because MusicMaster will look back until it finds a music element that it can use as the kickoff, and it'll ignore this non-music jingles category. See, the non-music is basically the red line through the musical note here, and you can make any category music or non-music. Let's just quickly review that. When you go into the categories, that's simply one of the properties on the categories you can change at any time. So when you create a new category, make sure you identify it as a music or non-music category depending on what you're going to put in there. All right. And I think we've covered these pretty well. There are some other considerations, inserting special sets into a clock, but if we have time, we'll go back to that. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to a thing that Paul touched on, which was the saved lists and scheduling from a saved list. So let's exit this clock, and yeah, we'll save our changes, sure, in case we want to go back and look at that in a little while. Now we're going to go and look at saved list categories and saved list clocks. Now here what we're doing is we're having a saved list where we're just the exact same kind that Paul talked about, where we're pulling from a saved music list. And we start this special show, Roll Your Own, with the first song from the list, and we just grab the next song from the list through the hour, and we have some jingles and traffic positions merged in along the way. And the saved list basically is just coming from a saved song list of some kind. So if, let's say that we want to change the program, we want to change which songs are in this, or scheduled in this program, we don't have to mess around with the clock. All we have to do is save new songs into the song list. So right now, the way things are set up, if we were to schedule that hour with that clock, we're going to get these songs in basically the song list order. And you can see the song list order if you load the song list editor. You right-click on the name of the song list, and you open that up. And here's the order of the songs. Let me make this fit within the screen here so it doesn't black out on your side. Basically, these are the order of the songs that are going to be filled in that clock. Now, if there happens to be too many to fill the clock, it's just going to ignore the extra ones. If there are too few, it's actually going to repeat. So you have to make sure that if you're doing a 12-song special, that you actually have 12 songs in here so that they all get used. And so it's going to basically play the songs in this order. Well, what if you want to change the order of the songs? You just grab on the pointer bar here, and you can move them around within this. So this gives you control over what songs end up in the list. But let's say that we want to do a different, now we've done this 1 week, now we want to put some different songs in here. One thing you can do is you can delete the songs from this list and just put in all new songs. So every week we can go in here and remove the songs from the list and put in all new songs. All right? And then you come over here and build another search list, saved list. What we're going to do is close this, though, and build it a faster way. You can just right-click and clear the song list, which removes all the songs from the list. And then, when you click on this, it'll be empty. Clear song list, yes. And then you can go to your categories, and let's say we bring up the entire music library. You can select specific songs, like I want this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and grab those on the pointer bar by clicking Control, and then click the mouse on the pointer bar, and then you grab on there and pull it into your song list. And we have to make sure we bring the song list screen up here, drag it over the top of the song list, and those songs will go into the list. So rather than like changing the clock every week, all you have to do is change the song list. Same thing if you were doing like a top 5 at 5 or top 8 at 8. You create a new list, and the clock is scheduling the list for you. Now you can intermingle different lists, which is kind of interesting. You can have specific hard scheduled categories that are in your clock. Let's go and take a look at a slightly different clock. We'll just go into a regular clock here. Let's say that we're going to change this one to a saved list, and this time we're going to pull from our dance tracks because we want a dance tracks tune here, and we want that dance tracks tune to appear a few times in the hour because we're pulling some songs from this special list. But we also have the ability to go in and take, say, this one and change it to saved list night music, and we're going to have just a couple of those this hour, and we put those in specific places. So basically you can have as many different lists within an hour that you want to pull from as you like. So here we're saying We're going to start out with a jingle and then a power, and then we're going to go to a dance track and then a talk break. And later on in this hour, we're going to have a jingle and night music, and we're going to repeat. We're going to have another dance track later on, and so on. So you can mix these saved lists and put them together, or put them different strategic places within the clock. And the save lists don't have to be songs. The save list can also be promos or jingles. They can be non-music elements. It's all your choice. Okay? All right. What we're going to do then is talk about, we're going to go into a little more depth here on the filters. When you're in the clocks and you want to put a filter on an element, just quickly talk about this. Let's say that at the top of the hour you want to start out with a specific type of record. You can go in here and go to the filters, and let's say that I want to make sure that I don't play a slow song. So I can say does not equal slow and add that. And I might also then add another filter in here and say I also don't want this first one to be, and in this case I would say does not contain. And I can say I don't want, now I can just select some things. I don't want it to be a ballad, I don't want it to be a dance disco, and so on. I don't want it to be a one-hit obscure. So I can pick different sound codes and add that, and combine those, and then in the filter mode say must match all. And basically when I put that filter on, I have a pretty complicated filter for this position, but what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'm trying to program what kind of songs can kick off the hour. And I'm preventing slow songs, ballads, disco songs, and so on. In your case, it would be totally different codes, but that's the power of the filter in the clocks, in the format clocks in MusicMaster. And you can apply these filters to many different positions. You can also apply them to two-for positions. You can apply them to just about any music position that you like. So let's go and take another look here at something that Paul was showing you in brief, which was the, let's go down to my clock for format lists. And what we're going to do is look at format lists in a little bit deeper detail. What the patterns are all about. And to really kind of cover this well, I think what we're going to do is go take a look at what patterns we have in here. We have format list, category pattern 1, and normal breaks. What do those mean? These were created basically, one of the ones is just a rotating category pattern that we want to follow. We want to have a D1 every other record, and then we want to alternate between those. We want to go to an R1, a P1, and a G1. And this is a repeating pattern of categories that we want to follow in our clock. And let's go jump back out of this and go back to normal breaks. This format list is a list of stop sets. And basically this is a rotation of stop sets. These could be much more elaborate than this, but basically we stop set 1, 2, 3, 4, and the top of our ID. So we have 5 of them. And we want to repeat this pattern. So when we build a clock with format lists using this pattern, we say we want the normal breaks, position 1, we're going to get our top of our ID out of that format list. When we call for normal breaks, position 2, a little later, we're going to get the first stop set. Here we're going to get the second stop set, third stop set, fourth stop set. So basically this is a simplified idea that we're pulling in the stop sets rather than programming them directly into this clock. We're pulling them in from a list of saved elements from somewhere else, from a format list. We're also pulling in from a format list our music categories so that we're getting that pattern, that rotating pattern. So we're going to have the definitive every other song. So we're going to have D1 and R1 and so on all the way through the hour. Now, what happens with this pattern when we get to the end of the hour, that's kind of interesting. If we were to save or use this clock, FL format lists, in an assignment grid, let's go do that. And we have, let's say that we use our format list clock in every hour of the day. And we go back to our format list clock. That, and we'll also go back and look at that pattern. Let's take a look at that that format list for category pattern. And you'll see that if we rotate through this, it's basically DR, DP, DG. When you're using the clocks in your rotation in sequence like this, wherever we left off in the pattern at the end of, say, this clock, Monday at midnight, the pattern will continue for the next song in the pattern into the next hour. So it will not reset back to the beginning of the pattern. It will actually flow behind the clocks so that that pattern actually continues no matter where the hour happens to break. So in other words, if when we get down to the bottom of this, we were at let's go back to our category pattern. Let's say we were here when we got to the bottom of that pattern, definitive with the next thing in line to be scheduled is power. When we go to the next hour, the next thing that will get scheduled at the top of that hour will be the power, because it's always going back to the list and grabbing the next song in the list or the next element in the list. And that's because we've told it to import the next. But you also have other choices. You can do this to create this nice flowing flow of categories that kind of happens no matter where the clocks happen to fall in time, and it also, you can insert between them your own mix of other categories or talk segments or stop sets, log notes, whatever. But you can also use these format lists to bring in entire shows if you like. You can bring in several elements at the same time. You can say, I need 5 elements out of this, so I get 5 songs or 5 clock elements out of the pattern. Or you can bring in a certain amount of time. So let's say that we're going to use a format list to build a special show, and this can be done. Let's close everything here and start and build one from scratch to give you an idea how that works. We have a lot of things open here. Let's close all of our clocks and just go down to just a show. Basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to open up a new format list. Format lists new, and we're going to call this one My Special Show. And when that opens up, we're going to window this so that we can basically see, and we'll tile that, window, tile, vertical. So we have our songs over here, and we have our special show over here, special show clock. In fact, we're going to make this a little bit bigger. What we're going to do is we're going to kick this off with a jingle, and see what I'm doing is actually dragging these right into the format list. So I'm pulling specific songs into the list. I know exactly what songs I want to play. I could put voice tracks in here. I could put stop sets in here. If I wanted to, I could stop here and say, here I want a log note to happen, and I want this to say talk segment, and that's going to be for 2 minutes. And we can just then start grabbing some more songs and putting them into the list. When we're finished, let's put this back out to full screen, we have all of our elements for a show. And we save this, and we've got about a 6-element show, 10 minutes long or so. Let's say I want to put that into a clock now. Now if I can go into any clock, let's just take our fixed positions clock here, and say that right here at 30 minutes into this hour, we want to insert that whole show with all those songs that have already been pre-programmed. What we do here is we'll insert an element, and it is a format list, and we got to find it. There it is. And then we go in here and pick the one we want, which is My Special Show. But instead of saying next like we were doing before, here we say we want multiple elements. And we want all 6 elements. And we want to start with element number 1. So basically what's going to happen is when this position gets filled, all of the elements that I put into that list are all going to be scheduled. All the songs, all the stop sets, all the break notes, everything, jingles, and you can see that the length of it is 21 minutes long, which it basically combined all of the elements that had been programmed into that format list. Now, this is basically just giving you an oversight, very, very simply, how the format list can be used in different ways. You can certainly be very creative with this and come up with your own ways of doing it. Every radio station's needs are different, but just knowing that you have the power to do this and what this is capable of doing could probably get the wheels turning and have you come up with other uses for the format list, maybe even beyond what we've anticipated here. Okay? Now, if you have any questions about any of these things, we got the questions box open. You can certainly type something in there. You can talk to a music scheduling consultant after the webinar and get some more focus and more detail on the thing that you're interested in. Paul also touched upon the migrating positions, and what we're going to do is dig into that a little bit more, go into a clock where I have some migrating positions already set up. The idea of the migrating positions is that you can say, I need a certain number of each category, but I don't care where they fall within the hour. So here I'm saying I want at least 2 from my rock, power, and general, and my definitive category has been programmed in here as a fixed element. So I know exactly where that category is going to fall. But when it comes to these other 3 categories, I'm going to kind of let them float around within here, but with some control. I'm going to basically say I need at least 2 of each of them and no more than 3. And as you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've got 8 positions to fill up. And so I'm going to get sometimes 2 rocks and 3 powers and 2 generals, and sometimes I'm going to get 3 rocks and 2 powers and 2 generals. I'm going to get a different mix that always adds up to filling all these positions, but I'm always going to get at least 2 of each, and sometimes one of them is going to end up having an extra one, or 2 of them are going to end up having an extra one to make up the difference. Now, suppose that here when I have a segue between the 2 of them, I never want to go ever from a rock to a general. This would be done by going into the no segue column, and I just select the category that I don't want to segue. I don't want to, if I have a rock here, if a rock happens to fall here, I can't have a general follow it. Okay, that's what this is. The same thing is true here and here. Wherever they're segueing, we're saying don't go from this to this category. And I could have selected other categories as well, depending on how complicated things get for you. Another thing that you might be concerned about is if you just let this fly the way it will, you might get a rock here, a rock here, and a rock here. So you got all 3 rocks used up in a row. So you might say, well, I don't ever want that to happen. In fact, I don't even want 2 rock categories to be used next to each other. So this is where you would go in and say, I need a minimum separation, and say maybe a minimum separation of 1, which means I need at least 1 other category before you can play another rock song. So pulling from the rock category, if it happens that we pull from the rock category here, we can't use the rock category here, we have to use something else. And we can then again use a rock here but not here, so on. So this basically gives you, these options give you some control over how these categories lay in here together. And also you have a per sweep, which would be how many of them you can have maximum in between these sweep markers. And so if you have a very complicated clock, that might be something that you want to take into consideration as well. All right. Now, one of the other things that I've seen people do is to, let's take this migrating position, and we're going to remove rock from this. And we're going to go to this one. And, well, actually what we'll do is we'll just create a whole new clock. We'll take some of these elements out of here. In fact, we're going to take the definitives out of here too. And let's pull this whole thing out. I actually pulled out a stop set that I didn't intend to pull up, but that's okay. We're going to take another migrating position, and we're going to flip it around so that we've got the D1s and R1s migrating as well. This is when we're mingling together two different kinds of migrating positions. So we're going to put in 3 from each and spread them around here in the hour. And each of these positions, as we go down through this, all right. What we're doing here is we're mixing together two different migrating positions. One is pulling from category P1 or G1, and the other one is D1 or R1. And if you were, say, you know, a current-based radio station, this might be my current categories and my gold categories. Or you might think of it, you might even create a third one, my current categories, my recurrent categories, my gold categories. What you're doing is you're saying, I want a P1 or G1 here, but I don't care which one. But it's got to be one of these two, P or G. This one's got to be a D or R. So this gives you even more control of where this randomness happens, where these categories happen to fall. You're going to get a different clock every time, but you're going to have a lot of control over exactly what happens here, because here you're going to get either a P or a G, here you're going to get a D or an R. But down here now, because we're no longer calling for fixed Ds, we have to go in and tell it how many of these we want. It turns red if you've got a minimum count, that there's not enough music in here to make this work. We've only got 6 positions where that can happen. So we have we're asking for too many of these things. But in a clock that was actually built to make sense, let's just clone some of these things and move them around. You know, now it starts to make a little more sense. So if we say, I want to have at least 2 Ds, at least 2 Rs, at least 2 Ps, at least 2 Gs, I don't care where they fall here, but the Ps have to fall in these spots, and the Gs have to fall in the spots where a G is called for, and so on. So the migrating positions gives you a lot of flexibility here. You can also mix in, of course, jingles and any kind of combination of things. You can mix in special sets. You can mix in saved song lists, even format lists. So you can use all these things in combination to create some pretty intense clocks. And these are all here. Basically, the purpose of the migrating clock is, let's say that you built just this one migrating clock, and we'll save that. And then we'll exit this. This is the MG migrating clock. If I go into my assignment grid and I select this entire week and I just pick this one clock, I am not getting the same pattern of music every hour. If I were to do this with a fixed clock, which is all fixed positions, every hour would be exactly the same pattern of music. I'd be always getting the power at the top of the hour. Everything would be happening, and that's fine. Some radio stations need that to happen, or you can build a whole bunch of different clocks that mix the order of things around. But in this case, that one clock is giving me the variation. Every hour is going to be different because the way that the migrating clock gets filled in is going to be different for every time the clock is created. Sometimes I'll get a P at the top of the hour. Sometimes I'll get a G. Sometimes that'll be followed by a D. Sometimes it'll be followed by an R. And over the course of the week, every clock will be slightly different from the others. Okay, that's basically the primary purpose of the migrating categories. We're also going to touch on here the time markers, and I have a clock set up just for that. Let's go in and take a look at fixed positions. And in this clock, I've got a time marker. And this is the hour timing marker at the bottom of the hour. And basically, this is just programmed in with by selecting element type time marker. And then on this screen, you tell it what time you need to keep this time marker within. So you have an upper and lower limit. In this case, I'm going to make it pretty tight. I want my hour to time out to 59:50 to 60:10, and I can see that from looking at the time here, because I added in this My Special Show, I've got a really long hour. So I'm going to take that out, and I can see that my hour is now around 1 hour and 16 seconds. That's a little long, but what you want to do is make sure that if you're using the hour timing position and you're using the hour timing rule, that the start time is very close to the range or within the range as much as you possibly can that you're asking for in the timing marker. Otherwise, if you had the clock run really long because you overschedule it by a couple elements, the scheduler, when it tries to satisfy this rule, is going to be trying to pick really short songs to try to get this hour timing to work for you. And if you likewise made the clock too short, it's going to be trying to pick really long songs to stretch the hour out to get it to fall. This timing marker is always going to be trying to fall within these limits that you've established. When you turn on the hour timing, in this case, you have to make sure that you go into your rules and you have to make sure that you have the hour timing rule turned on somewhere. And I don't see it in here. To see if you have it or not, you can go to clock hour timing in the format clock rules, and you can say, well, do I have that? Just right click and say filter rule tree. No, I don't. So I'll unfilter, and I'm going to take it and drag it in here. I can make this an unbreakable rule, which means that, well, let's see what this means. Basically, if we make it an unbreakable rule, it means that as I'm filling this clock, I am trying always, as I fill in each position, to get songs that will get me to 5950 to 6010. And if I end up picking songs that are too long, let's say I pick a really long song here, American Pie or something like that, what will happen is some of these positions will be left unscheduled because there's no room for them in order to get the hour to time out to 5950 to 6010. So when it's set to an unbreakable rule, songs can be left unscheduled for timing purposes in order to get you to where you need to be. You can also make the clock hour timing a breakable rule, either a high priority or a low priority rule, in which case MusicMaster will try to get the hour to time out there, and if it can't, it'll just have to break the rule and pick a song that the best possible song that it can, and let this hour timing not come out where you want it to be. You also have a compromise here where you can say, I want to set this by category. So I know that I schedule my D's first and then my R's and my P's and my G's. So maybe I want clock hour timing to be a breakable rule in the beginning, and then I want to have it be a breakable rule for the second category, but I want to make it unbreakable as I get to my last two categories. And what this does for you, it basically says that when you're scheduling the first couple passes, you don't have to really think that much about the hour timing. Go ahead and play any length of song there. Don't worry about whether or not the song is going to try to get you to the hour timing marker. But as you start to fill in the last categories in that hour, now you have to seriously consider hour timing and drop songs if necessary in order to get that to come out right. Now, you might notice too that in this hour, we've also put a hour timing marker. I'm going to wrap up with this. This is an hour timing marker that's been used within the hour. And here I'm saying I need the hour timing to come to 32:55 to 33:10 within the hour. And this is basically the same as this, programming an entire hour. But here I'm saying I want this weather break to get on the air around 33. And I want it to be very tight, within 5 seconds to minus to 10 seconds plus. And in this case, it's going to be, MusicMaster is going to be looking at the times of the songs between this point and the beginning of the hour and choosing songs that tend to get us the weather break on the air on time. So if we end up with a long song here and a long song here, MusicMaster is going to pick a couple short songs to compensate to make sure that it gets the hour timing done on time. And we're running out of time here. There's a lot more, as usual, just as what happened last week. There's more I could talk about than I have time for. So we'll probably have another session on this later on. Watch the MusicMaster website for details on that. And so, Mark, I'm ready to wrap it up here. Are you there?
Very good. Very good. Thanks, guys. I hope you got something out of today's sessions, like Joe said, there's we could certainly go beyond just an hour on any given topic, but we need to try to keep these encapsulated as best we can for your good and for ours. Next week we're going to be addressing rules. Like I said before, if you were here earlier, I think that even the novice and even the experienced user will be able to get a lot out of the rules session on how you can tweak and fine-tune MusicMaster much more so than any other scheduling platform out there. This session was recorded and will be available on our website. Like we also said, we cannot break it down into individual hours. The GoToWebinar software just won't allow us to do that, but it will be a 3-hour block. Will be on our website at mmwin.com. Finally, also make sure that you register for any subsequent webinar that we have scheduled. I think we have a limited schedule now. We're going to be expanding that schedule on the website, but you do indeed have to schedule or register for each individual week. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to us. Probably the easiest way is by email. All of our email addresses end in mmwin.com.